Let's talk about the big news. What's been going on the past couple days politically? Only a historic moment. The first and only so far second impeachment of a president of the United States. You know, if you've ever seen the Hobbit meme, we've had one impeachment. Yes. What about second impeachment? That's that's how I always like to think about it. The second impeachment of Donald Trump is very important, I believe. There's a big sense among a lot of people, those on the right and even many on the left, who have this idea of we just need to move on. Enough about Donald Trump. We need to get to the COVID stimulus. We need to, there's other more important things going on. This is just divisive. And I think that's a lot of things. But one thing that it is it's a bit naive. I understand the concern about the COVID stimulus, but again, we're not getting any Republican votes in the Senate for the COVID stimulus. So the only way for it to move forward is through budget reconciliation, which by its very nature is going to take more time. So if you want to blame anybody for that, don't blame the Democrats impeaching Trump in the House. You can blame the Republicans again because they are blocking this thing. When we talk about the impeachment, there's a lot of different things going on with the impeachment that are very fascinating, very interesting. There have been several days. Day one on Tuesday, the arguments were mostly, is it even constitutional to move forward with an impeachment even though Donald Trump is no longer the president? This is an impeachment trial, mind you. Trump was impeached while he was the president. But again, you can look to the Republicans. Mitch McConnell would not take the articles to the floor of the Senate for a trial while Trump was still president. Okay. So we are stuck with having to, and when I say we, I mean, anybody who wants to hold a criminal president accountable for crimes he commits in, January or December or November after an election or any time post-election, let alone a crime as heinous as stoking a mob to attack the Capitol while the vote count of the Electoral College is happening. The only way to do that is to impeach them and then hold a trial after they're out of office, right? Trump attempted a coup, but it wasn't successful. He's quite incompetent in many ways. And as we've seen with the lawyers that he's chosen. And so a lot of the focus of his lawyers were, this is unconstitutional. That was day one of argument. Now, if you weren't paying too close attention to the Senate before this, Senator Josh Hawley of the insurrection caucus, as you will, the guy who gave the fist up to the insurrectionists, the MAGA mob, before it smashed windows and roamed the halls of Congress, smearing their excrement on the walls and defacing property and stomping each other to death, immolating themselves on the Capitol building, as it were, including one woman who was shot. They also beat several police officers, one to death. Two later have committed suicide now. There are two Capitol Police officers who've committed suicide. One has lost an eye. One lost the tip of his finger. There's all kinds of, crazy, heinous acts that were committed. Josh Hawley introduced, since the attack and before the impeachment, a resolution or a bill, what have you, to argue that an impeachment of Donald Trump, a Senate trial after he's out of office, is unconstitutional. 5 Republicans voted against that with the majority, the Democratic majority. And then again, after the full day in the impeachment trial of arguing whether or not an impeachment even was constitutional after the president leaving office, they added one more Republican vote to that. So we had 6 Republicans vote for that. It's the senator from Louisiana. And he basically said, well, if Trump's lawyers hadn't given such a god-awful defense or god-awful argument, then I might have voted that it was unconstitutional. But basically, he would have been much too embarrassed to vote for that. So that's what we saw the first day. Now, this is really interesting because the House Democrats, the members of the House who are bringing the case argue the case. Trump has private lawyers arguing in his defense. The first 2 days, that's Wednesday and Thursday, of the official Senate hearing proceedings, right? The trial, as the trial of Donald Trump, Part 2, Electric Boogaloo, Impeachment 2, Electric Boogaloo. They had 8 hours each day, the Democrats, to argue the case. And they have done quite a job. Day one was filled with, they brought forth security footage from the congressional security cameras, things we hadn't seen before. The Confederate flag guy was one of the first people in the building. They showed very clearly that the insurrectionists were responding in real time to the whims of Donald Trump, to Donald Trump's Twitter feed. Actually, there were literally people from the throughout their live streaming. You could hear them in their comments. The House impeachment managers, they really compiled all this footage to show that there were people who were absolutely ready to go, and at the whims of Donald Trump. As soon as Donald Trump tweets about Mike Pence, they're screaming his name. Let's find Mike Pence. Hang Mike Pence. Hang Mike Pence. They also have the footage of, as soon as Trump releases his video of where he was saying, you're very special people. We love you. It's time to go home. Bye-bye. Please go home. That's when they started going, well, we did it. Trump said we can go home. And if you take really a moment to reflect on this, Jay Coleman in the comments is calling the Senate hearing a kangaroo court. Because think about this. There's going to need to be 17 Republican senators to vote to convict Trump. 17. And pair that with the fact that could there ever be a more obvious case of a treasonous insurrectionary act than stoking up a mob to attack the electoral vote count, giving a rousing speech, and they run into the halls of Congress waving flags with your name on them, right? Could there ever be a more obvious thing? Like a more obvious crime committed? No. But the Republicans, the lawyers that are arguing for Trump, they are just full of lies, just like Trump. And part of what bothers me about this, and I saw it on day one, and you saw it today when Trump's lawyers finally argued their rebuttal. They had 8 hours to do it, guys. They only did 3 hours of argument back and forth. And their argument, argument to exonerate Trump, really, to acquit him. And their argument consisted of cancel culture, Black Lives Matter did it, Antifa did it, or it was Antifa did it. What about the riots and Black Lives Matter and Hillary Clinton and Kamala Harris, right? That's basically what it is. Let's see. Dark at 88 says, and most was a montage of fight, fight, fight. Yeah, Jay Coleman, it's a Tony Clifton court. I hereby say that the senator from Louisiana is out of order. Right? Yeah, exactly. It's very, very Tony Clifton energy. Let's see here. I have a lot of clips queued up here. But I just want to make sure. There's so many. It's like, where do we even start? But what the thing I wanted to add before we get into the clips, I saw this on day one, and I saw it again today when Trump's lawyers. Keep in mind, these lawyers, Trump fired his legal team. He didn't fire them. His legal team left him out to dry like the weekend before the trial started, last weekend, because he wasn't going to pay any of them. So now he's literally on like his fourth tier backup lawyers. One of them's a personal injury lawyer that I guess was involved in a suit against Trump not too long ago. So, I guess we know how Trump found out about this guy. Like, oh, I've heard about this guy. He was suing me, I guess. Well, let's see. So, I mean, and part of their arguments, I mean, whataboutism was trending on Twitter earlier because literally the Trump lawyers were arguing, what about Antifa? What about all these things? They have a reel of Democrats saying just the word fight, because they're saying you got to fight for it, or you got to fight to take the country back, blah, 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 as if it's nearly anywhere the same as Trump stoking up a mob, saying we're going to march to the Capitol and we're going to fight for our country, right? After he's primed them by telling them that the election's been stolen. right? Let's see. I got a couple comments here I want to include. Yeah, Dark at 88, Madonna was included. Yes, Madonna from the great state of the senator from the great state. They also had Johnny Depp in one of them. And so and this is the thing. Last week I played a video from or last week. You can see it in the clipped videos I have on my channel. We went over the extremism of the GOP, and they played a video before the march on the Capitol. And they clearly showed the Capitol, and then in the very next frame with a voiceover from Trump, it went to the Hollywood sign. So this is what they're doing. They're not going to change. There's no self-reflection on the part of the Republican Party. They're only going to lean even harder into this. Trump's a victim now for for the crimes he's committed. How dare you? How could you? And all of this stuff. But really what upsets me the most about it is notice how the fever pitch of the news and the level of discourse, notice how it's changed just in the past couple of weeks, since January 20th, right? Since Joe Biden was inaugurated. There's still all these things we have to worry about, all these issues, coronavirus, extremism, they're all still there. But not only has the fever pitch come down, but the level of stupidity of the Trump years is something that I deeply resent on a fundamental level. Like, they really think this is how little Trump thinks of his supporters, how little the Republican Party thinks of its base, but really truly the hatred and the revulsion they have for just you and me, regular Americans. The level of stupidity in the discourse. And it's funny too, I could be called a coastal elitist for saying these things are stupid, for just noting that the discourse is so unintelligent and so childish and so viscerally idiotic. But at the end of the day, I find the lies, the constant lying, the hatred, the fear-mongering, I find it as an affront to me. I find it as a type of elitism where someone like Donald Trump, who lives in a golden skyscraper, can just spur up people on lies and racial animus and perceived grievances, and turn. It started with racial minorities, talking about Mexicans, building the wall. He turned his ire on the press, which I'm a member of, right? So but then it quickly became all anybody who just didn't agree with him, or just all Democrats. Right? The Trump administration tried to keep COVID relief from blue states. Literally, Jared Kushner was part of the coronavirus task force. He literally just dragged his heels on COVID because he saw it was affecting New York and California and Washington from the beginning. He's like, who cares? So that's what I mean by this visceral stupidity, where really lives do hang on the line. Right? And the visceral stupidity of thinking an attack on the Electoral College count would somehow help Trump, right? Everything Trump touches turns to shit, right? And so he really thought this was a good idea to spur a MAGA mob up to attack the Capitol. And all that we got out of it was his own supporters died in the process. The officer that they bludgeoned to death was also a Donald Trump supporter. So it's literally Trump on Trump crime. Trump supporters killing Trump supporters. A poor woman from Georgia with a "Don't Tread on Me" flag being stomped to death by Trump supporters. That is the level we're living at. This is the country we have. And I just saw it in the way that the Trump lawyers defended him. Their stupidity, of the childishness of their arguments, the bad faith. It just brought back all the Trump years and all the stupid arguments. No collusion, right? Oh, we could drink bleach or find ways to get light into the body to kill COVID. It'll just go away, people. It'll just go away, right? All of that stuff came flooding back, and it just filled me with a lot of just revulsion and a type of a rage. Jay Coleman says in the comments, it was an oddity to U.S. political history, the Trump ineptitude. I mean, you could call it an oddity, but it ruled our lives for, hundreds of thousands of people are dead. Americans are dead. People in my community, I know people who lost people. I have been very strict. I've been telling my family and friends to be very strict this whole time, because we couldn't count on the federal government to organize a response to this thing, because we knew who was in charge. We knew the craven, just buffoons that were running our federal government. Jay Coleman, we ain't seeing that $1,400 either. That was just to win Georgia. The Dems bluffed us again. I wouldn't be so sure about that, Jay. I'm pretty sure we're going to get the relief out. I think they're going to get it out. That's just how, I don't think it's not going to go anywhere. We're just going to have to wait a while for it. But again, that's because we can't even get a single Republican vote for that. And we're definitely not going to get 10. And when we have to go through budget reconciliation. So, I'm not saying that the Dems are perfect, but we can blame Republicans again. And this is the thing. Back to the impeachment. The Trump lawyers have tried to argue that Trump, they're literally making a free speech argument. That what? Oh, the president doesn't have free speech to incite an insurrection? He can't just say what he wants? When the president of the United States says an oath when they're inaugurated to uphold the Constitution of the United States, which includes, the winner of an election wins the Electoral College, and that's what our Constitution says. So he literally attacked one of the cornerstone processes that are in the Constitution of the democratic process. America now can no longer say we've always had a peaceful transition of power. Not anymore. We haven't, because of Donald John Trump. And the Republicans try to just say, oh well, all of these, Trump's lawyers, all of these people, well, they were just acting of their own accord. And Democrats, the House managers, have done quite a job of illustrating that's not the case. Check out this clip. This is one of the House managers, Representative Diane DeGette from Colorado, bringing up some news footage of one of these Trump supporters, and it's pretty fascinating. Take a look at this.
Now look, the lawyers who are saying that their clients were told to commit these acts by Mr. Trump, well, they know that putting the blame on the president doesn't exonerate their clients. They're just saying it, frankly, because that's exactly what happened. Another Trump supporter who's been federally charged is Texas real estate agent Jennifer Ryan. Now, Ms. Ryan has given many TV interviews in which she says she was only doing what the president asked her and others to do. She also recorded video before the rally talking about the mob's plans for violence. And here's what she said.
Personally, I do not feel a sense of shame or guilt from my heart from what I was doing.
No shame at all.
I thought I was following my president. I thought I was following what we were called to do. He asked us to fly there. He asked us to be there. So I was doing what he asked us to do.
Ultimately, yes, we were going in solidarity with President Trump. President Trump requested that we be in D.C. on the 6th. So this was our way of going and stopping this deal.
If it comes down to war, guess what? I'm going to be there.
We're all going to be up here, and we're going to be breaking those windows.
So there you go. I mean, here it's just as clear as day that so many of these people showed up only for the reason that Donald Trump asked them to be there. I mean, clearly. It's funny. I've talked about a local here in Santa Maria, California, in the Valley. This is what I called the Majority Report about. He went to the insurrection, and he's since quit his job, in shame, basically. And he claimed, well, I didn't even vote for Trump. I just went because the president called people there to be there, right? So, obviously, a lot of people got roped into his more extreme followers, got roped into this idea that the election's been stolen, which is a lie. It's an absolute lie. Trump is on tape with the Georgia Secretary of State asking him to find him votes so he could win Georgia. That came out the weekend before the insurrection, right? So that's just some of what we're seeing. Jay Coleman, if that was leftist, they would have nuked Washington. Yeah. Yeah. If it was leftist, they would have just all been shot dead. Oh, geez. So there's so many different clips I want to get to. One of them that just blew me away. Let's see here. Well, one crazy thing was one of Trump's lawyers argued that the first person arrested was the leader of Antifa. And nothing more came of it. They didn't say anything else about it. Guys, there's no leader of Antifa. There's no news story about the leader of Antifa being arrested at the insurrection on January 6th. He made it up. He's just making it up. They're literally saying, but Antifa did it. But Antifa did it. And then they're also whatabouting the whole idea. Just Democrats say not nice things. What about the Democrats? And the cue the footage of usually women and women of color and people of color. But some, of course, of Joe Biden and others saying scary words, not granted, not with a mob ready to take over state capitol. But listen to this really quick. This is one of Trump's lawyers.
That same hatred and anger has led House managers to ignore their own words and actions and set a dangerous double standard. The House managers spoke about rhetoric, about a constant drumbeat of heated language. Well, as I'm sure everyone watching expected, we need to show you some of their own words.
Scary Democrats.
Uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be.
There needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
You got to be ready to throw a punch. You have to be ready to throw a punch.
Donald Trump, I think you need to go back and punch him in the face.
That I thought he should have punched him in the face.
I feel like punching him.
I'd like to take him behind the gym if I were in high school. If we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
No, I wish we were in high school. I could take him behind the gym.
I will go and take Trump out tonight.
Take him out now.
Okay. When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
Johnny Depp. Well, what state does he represent in the Congress, huh?
They're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
That was a CNN. That's Cuomo. Chris Cuomo, right? Andrew Cuomo's brother. That's that again. What state does he represent in the Congress? That's Maxine Waters. They like to focus on Maxine Waters, it seems. That's the representative that Trump would continually focus on and call low IQ. Trump always reserved the insult low IQ for Maxine Waters. Anybody guess why?
I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
Madonna. Yes, the senator from the great state of, I don't know.
Please. Get up in the face of some Congress people.
People will do what they do.
I want to tell you, Gorsuch. I want to tell you, Kavanaugh. You have released the whirlwind.
I'm sorry. Chuck Schumer tried to be intimidating. You have released the whirlwind.
And you will pay the price.
We're going to go in there. We're going to...
Yeah, that's right. Did it twice.
To you Trumpers, be careful. Walk lightly. And for those of you who are soldiers, make them pay.
If you had to be stuck in an elevator with either President Trump, Mike Pence, or Jeff Sessions, who would it be?
Does one of us have to come out alive?
Oh my gosh, that's so scary. She's on, oh my God, she's on there with Ellen. These Antifas are coming for us. They're coming for Ellen. Ellen is coming for them. She's going to invade my house. God, can you believe this? So really, yeah, Jay Coleman, Johnny Depp and Madonna is my defense. Don't forget Ellen, scary Ellen. She's coming for us. She is coming for us. So this is the level of bad faith we're dealing with. So whataboutism extraordinaire. But then there's also this argument that Donald Trump, because he's out of office, he can't be tried for this, even though there have been multiple impeachments in American history where the official has already resigned or left office, and it's to hold them accountable so that it sets a precedent that they can't do this again. This isn't complicated, right? This isn't complicated. But what does the Republican Party do What does the right, American right, do when it's clearly caught, in the wrong, with its pants down, in another scandal? Possibly this is the most scandalous moment in American history. What do? Culture war time, buddy. Crank it up. Culture war. You got Bill O'Reilly's Culture Warrior book on the hearth. Flip through there, get a couple little choice morsels, and then you go to work with that. And really, really brace yourself for this is the better one of Trump's lawyers. And that is like scraping the bottom of a barrel. But listen to what he has to say here.
We will not take most of our time today, us of the defense, in the hopes that you will take back these hours and use them to get delivery of COVID relief.
COVID relief that no Republicans are going to vote for.
To the American people. Let us be clear. This trial is about far more than President Trump. It is about silencing and banning the speech the majority does not agree with.
Oh my gosh.
It is about canceling 75 million Trump voters.
Okay, pause. This is a huge lie that they keep making. Another big lie from the Republicans. 75 million votes. 75 million votes, huh? Really? Was that it? How many votes did Donald Trump get? He got 74 million. Here it is. Look here. Sorry, guys. 74 million. 200,016 to 154. They're literally they're shooting 750,000 more votes. Okay? So Biden has what, 81,268,924? So what is that? That's 7 million more? Yeah, 7 million more votes for Joe Biden. Trump, and so they're lying. They're saying Trump got 75. You're going to disenfranchise 75 million votes, 75 million votes of American people. They just can't not lie. They just can't not lie. It's unbelievable. That's my Sam Cedar impression. Unbelievable. But here, if you're not already strapped in, strap in, because here it is. Here it comes.
And criminalizing political viewpoints. That is what this trial is really about. It's the only existential issue before us. It asks for constitutional cancel culture to take over in the United States Senate.
You hear it? Hear it again.
It asks for constitutional cancel culture to take over in the United States Senate.
Constitutional cancel culture, everybody. This is cancel culture. You want to cancel Donald Trump. All he did was stoke up a mob that wanted to just, kill everybody in the procession of power, in the line of power, and then maybe as many, women of color, Congress people, they could get their head. This is heinous. This is so typical of the right wing. They can't say racist things anymore. Cancel culture. They can't discriminate against LGBTQ people in the workplace or at their businesses. It's cancel culture. You're trying to cancel me. I can't incite an insurrection against the United States. I can't try to subvert the will of 7 million more voters than, my losing vote count. Cancel culture. I can't. Used to be in this country, you could incite an insurrection. George W. Bush stole an election. Why can't I? This is cancel culture. I'm just getting canceled for trying to steal an election. What does this country come to? This country used to be so great. Right? I mean, can you believe this? Can you really believe this? It's, and so following their piss poor arguments, these Trump defenders, is after that was a question period where all the senators could submit whatever questions they had to either side, the House managers or the attorneys defending Trump. There were some doozies. There were some interesting moments. So look at how this guy plays hide the ball. This guy we were just watching, Collins and Murkowski, Susan Collins, a Republican, asked Trump's lawyers to detail what actions Trump took to get rioters out of the Capitol after he learned it had been breached. They just don't even talk about it because they know they have nothing to stand on here.
President Trump learn of the breach of the Capitol? What specific actions did he take to bring the rioting to an end? And when did he take them? Please be as detailed as possible.
Clerk, read that question again. We're getting it back.
Really?
Breach of the Capitol. And what did he take them? Please be as detailed as possible.
Yeah, we don't need to hear the question twice.
The House managers have given us absolutely no evidence the other onto that question. We're able to piece together a timeline and...
Okay, this is the other crazy thing that these guys are arguing. The House managers didn't come up with evidence as to what Donald Trump did. Donald Trump refused to testify. He refused to testify. So if anybody knows what he was up to, it's these guys. But they're claiming that as a problem. Like, well, they didn't investigate enough.
It goes all the way back to December 31st, January 2nd. There is a lot of interaction between the authorities and getting folks to have security beforehand. On the day, we have a tweet at 2:38, so it was certainly sometime before then. With the rush to bring this impeachment, there's been absolutely no investigation into that. And that's the problem with this entire proceeding. The House managers did zero investigation, and the American people deserve a lot better than coming in here with no evidence, hearsay on top of hearsay on top of reports that are of hearsay.
This is ridiculous. So, again, the Dems laid out for 2 days at like masses of video evidence. And this is the crazy thing is this whole thing was done like right out in the open, right? We all watched this happen. We all watched Trump give his speech. Rudy Giuliani went before. He said, we'll have trial by combat. And we saw Trump said, you got to be tough. You're not going to save your country by being weak. You have to be tough. You have to be strong, right? We all saw that happen. We all watched his supporters storm the Capitol. We all watched Trump, tweet about Mike Pence, followed by a bunch of his supporters in the Capitol saying, he's saying Mike Pence, let's get him. All of that, waving flags with the dude's name on it. Couldn't be more obvious. And this guy's saying, well, they just didn't do enough of an investigation because they don't have answers to questions about things that only Trump would know and he won't testify about. Now, if you want the top of Mount Whatabout, right? The cherry on top of the whataboutism sundae. Look no further than Marco Rubio, Florida Senator's question, where he goes, if you're gonna impeach Trump after he's out of office, then what about could we impeach Hillary Clinton? Now, forget for a second that Trump was impeached while he was in office. The impeachment was voted upon in the House. He was impeached. Bunch of Republicans joined in on that, and there you go. So really quick, listen to this. This is such just slimy, goonish whataboutism and bad faith BS. I mean, it really is a testament to the art of slime, really sliminess.
A former official can be convicted and disqualified. A former president would create a new precedent that a former official can be convicted and disqualified by the Senate. Therefore, is it not true that under this new precedent, a future House facing partisan pressure to lock her up could impeach a former Secretary of State, and a future Senate be forced to put her on trial and potentially disqualify from any future office?
Can you believe it? Can you, like, this is why we're not gonna, there's gonna be no remorse, no self-reflection from the Republican Party. Literally, Trump went as far as you can go without overthrowing and installing him, you know, putting a crown on his head like Napoleon Bonaparte, right? You couldn't go any farther than Trump did with it without it being like that. And you're not going to get zero self-reflection from them. That's the party. That's the party we're dealing with. Kafifi says something about the courts. I'm going to get to that in a second. But I believe this is a clip of Jamie Raskin, the impeachment manager, responding to some of this stuff. Listen to this.
Senator Tuberville reports that he spoke to President Trump at 2:15 p.m. He told the president that the vice president had just evacuated. I presume it was understood at this time that rioters had entered the Capitol and threatened the safety of senators and the vice president. Even after hearing of this at 2:24 p.m., President Trump tweeted that Mike Pence lacked courage. He did not call for law enforcement backup until then. The tweet and lack of response suggests President Trump did not care that Vice President Pence was endangered or that law enforcement was overwhelmed. Does this show that President Trump was tolerant of the intimidation of Vice President Pence?
Counsel has 2.5 minutes.
This is Trump's lawyer responding to that question about Trump hanging Pence out to dry.
Directly, no. But I dispute the...
No, it doesn't. But also, I don't like the question.
...premise of your facts. I dispute the facts that are laid out in that question. And unfortunately, we're not going to know the answer to the facts in this proceeding.
Even though I have direct contact with the only person who would, the president, former President Trump, because it's the Democrats' fault.
Because the House did nothing to investigate what went on. We're trying to get hearsay from Mr. Tuberville. There was hearsay from Mr. Lee, I think it was 2 nights ago when we ended, where Mr. Lee was accused of making a statement that he never made.
Everything is hearsay. Everything is hearsay. Let's skip ahead to what Raskin said.
But it was
experience in Washington.
Oh, so wait, you got to hear this last
Trump
thing he
and
said.
Mr. Pence have had a very good relationship. Or at a bar somewhere. Lee, I think it was 2 nights ago when we ended, where Mr. Lee was accused of making a statement that he never made. But it was a report from a reporter, from a friend of somebody who had some hearsay that they heard the night before at a bar somewhere. I mean, that's really the kind of evidence that the House has brought before us. And so I have a problem with the facts in the question because I have no idea. And nobody from the House has given us any opportunity to have any idea. But Mr. Trump and Mr. Pence have had a very good relationship.
Very good
time,
relationship.
And I'm sure Mr. Trump very much is concerned and was concerned for the safety and well-being.
Oh, yeah, that's why Mike Pence and his family are in hiding, basically, with private security, right? I mean, they can't even go back to their own home right now because they're so afraid of MAGA people showing up wherever they might be. They have a great relationship.
Mr. Pence and everybody else that was over here.
Jeez.
Thank you.
He also earlier railed against, this is the worst time I've ever had in the this is the worst I've ever seen, the worst experience I've ever had in Washington. Listen to Raskin's response.
Have 2.5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, my counsel said before This has been my worst experience in Washington, and for that, I guess we're sorry, but man, you should have been here on January 6th.
Yeah, so exactly. I mean, Raskin goes on. If you guys, I know this is kind of dry. It's very procedural. It's very, parliamentary. All of those things. But if you can stomach it, go and watch some of this. Try to just, and you can just see. I've watched hours of it now. You can see the dichotomy between the arguments the Democrats make, well reasoned, backed by evidence, and what the Republican lawyers, the best Trump could buy for not very, pennies on the dollar, right? Running reels of Democrats, clipping Democrats saying, fight, you got to fight. And then, Johnny Depp and Madonna and, reporters, people, not even politicians. Just so all it is it's back to the Republican culture war. They're out of power now. Poor us. We're oppressed, even though we just led one of the most vitriolic, hateful administrations in presidential history, right? Just trampling people's rights, refugees thrown into cages, their children stripped from them, federal, Gestapo troops sent to cities with Black Lives Matter protests in Portland and Seattle. They were literally shooting toxic gas at people, not just tear gas, but like toxic gas that did like lung damage to people, shooting out people's eyes with rubber bullets and incendiary rounds, all this stuff. There was that guy who, the guy self-identified Antifa who shot a Patriot Prayer member. Trump dispatched U.S. Marshals where they just shot on the guy like 30 sometimes, turned him into Swiss cheese. Trump called it retribution. We need retribution. That's the reign of Donald Trump. That's what this whole thing represents. And now look at this, they're back to being victims all over again.